So this is Small Town Parade, Frozen Lake, Notes on Fear. And I would say that this piece exists on the somewhere on the line between poem and very lyric essay. In the grocery store parking lot, I refused to go inside. Pariah now, I stayed door shut in the passenger seat, averting my eyes, hand shielding my face. A man in a mud-crusted Jeep stares me down. I don't know him, but maybe I know him. It's a week after the parade, and everyone's all angry eyes. I'm more seen than I have ever been. I'm less seen than I've ever been. I sit in the parking lot and wait. Baby, where are you? And how long does it take to buy plain yogurt and block ice for the broken refrigerator? I count backward from 100, 200, until I hear a shopping cart rattle, until I spy your ball cap bobbing across the parking lot, as you laugh your loud laugh, as you lean effortlessly into a truck window, as you shoot the shit with a friend and make it look so easy. I step out onto the frozen lake, wandering the cove beside the slate quarry. The ice is skinned with sleet. My tracks are tangled. I loop a loose figure eight, pass through the hole and back into the needle's eye again and again, layering. The energy of our bodies sinks when we feel afraid. Something primal is awakened. Animal, we curl inward, protect our vital organs. The quarry looms behind the lake, a snow-mounded shoulder. It hulks in on itself, then gives way without warning, drops sharply into watery pit. There was a parade in my town. There were floats in the parade. I was in the parade. On the float, in front of my float, was a brick wall, a boy in a striped uniform and blonde wig, and the name Clinton slapped on the back of his jumpsuit was bent down on his knees, building the wall with mortar and trowel. There was a man dressed as Trump who made the boy build the wall. Out of space, said the sign on the float. It was a wordplay. The theme of the parade was supposed to be outer space. The man dressed as Trump gulped a Bud Light from the stash in his wheelbarrow and strutted. I watched it all. It was a hot summer day. He sprayed the boys down with a hose and they hollered for more. One boy almost punched another boy. They were red-faced, screaming. The crowd cheered and clapped. The man trumped up their fears and his own too. He danced his own parade. The streets were lined with spectators. Half the town cheered and half the town booed. The float rode right down Main Street, and the whole time the sign on the back of the float said, "We all bleed red, white, and blue." Everyone is so afraid they can't decide what to fear most. Everyone is carrying stones, or maybe only some of us are carrying stones. None of us can decide who is carrying stones. The town is afraid of change. The town fears what it does not know. The unknown is everywhere. In this town, outsiders keep coming, a flood of them. The outsiders love the mountains. The outsiders love the rivers. The outsiders love what they call this quaint, simple way of life. The outsiders bring their money. They bring new desires for expensive goat cheeses, for mountain bikes, for kombucha, for spicy food. They bring new views, new values, new words. They ask the town to examine itself with a strange new gaze. And the town, afraid, hunches in on itself and hardens like slate. According to Chinese medicine, fear is the emotion associated with the water element, with the kidneys, with the bladder, and with winter. Because winter hangs so close to the realm of death, it is the natural season for fear. Worry knots the key, leading to stagnated and circular thinking. A quarry is both mouth and midden. both the crevasse in which we bury our hearts and the heap of detritus our excavation leaves behind. Its hidden darkness crusts with ice, stone hard and shining. In the weeks after the parade, I started recalling that summer day a decade and a half ago before this town was ours. We'd followed your sister to a friend, some guy we didn't know. It was all of us, day drunk, all of us, 22, all of us in the sunshine on the front lawn, drinking Jim Beam and ginger ale, all of us smoking Camels or American spirits, all of us young, our love so young, so careless. We were all of us joking about this and that, saying who was from here and who was from away. I was from away and you were from here. And someone said, masshole. And I said, what's that? I'm not that. You were smiling as you took my hand, as you took a drag of your cigarette. You were smiling and the sun was shining. It was midsummer and the town was not yet ours. We were drinking whiskey. We were 22 and you were smiling and you said, no, we have another word for you. The pericardium is the sac around the heart. It absorbs all pain to protect the heart. It sets the tone of contraction and tension within our bodies. We each build our own rhythms. We each ossify our own armor. When we feel afraid, shoulders roll and shrink. Fear comes when we are faced with the unknown, with change, with a shifting surface, with cavern, with the threat we will break. The ice expands as it thickens, leading to stress fractures and sudden popping sounds, gunshots under our feet. The ice triggers our fear response even as it hardens beneath. We call our neighbor the gatekeeper, and it's a joke, but it's also not. Her house is the first one on this hill as you come up the road, and she's got way more and bigger guns than us. We call this hill where we live an easily defensible hill, which is also a joke, but not. This question of what we'll all do when the proverbial or literal shit ever hits the fan. Our neighbor has boxes of freeze-dried oatmeal and space blankets and bandages and cases of cans of Chef Boyardee and 120 rolls of toilet paper the last time she counted. She says anyone not prepping is just being stupid and that she sure as shit won't be left with her pants down. Us, we don't call ourselves anything, but it's true that there are rows of canning jars laid up in our cellar and a stash of old antibiotics under the kitchen sink. All our friends say this is where they'll go if they can make it out of the cities alive. Our neighbor says no, they can't come unless they have a skill, and I argue with her. I want to fight for everyone worth saving, which I think is most all of us. So we spend the evening with our neighbors laughing and quarreling about it over beers, and the line between surreal and real keeps pressing closer, like when you overstuff a jar of dilly beans before you lower it into the boiling water. Then the bottom pops out and it shoots glass brine and beans all through your canning pot. On a frozen lake, at snowfall, everything is whiter, wider, further, closer than it seems. My vision inflates and constricts. Always I have followed language like the snowmobile trail that cuts across this frozen lake. The ice pops loudest close to the quarry. The black slate beneath and beside this lake is famous and highly prized for tombstones. In the old photographs, the open pit slate mine gaped like Tartarus. The cut ledge lent a grave-like air, a staggering fall. Workers stepped into the box and were lowered into the pit by a hoist. The slate was brought up to the top of the quarry by the same chains used to lower the box. If there is anything that would surely provoke fear, it is being lowered by chains into a pit shaped like a grave. All I did was write a letter, I believed, Language was a raft, believed our mouths were all our ocean. After the parade, I wrote a letter, passed the letter around. A reporter called. I spoke to the reporter. No one else would. I wasn't born in this town. I wasn't, but I thought I was a part. When word got out, they all said, "You will never be from here now." Word got out, and all the words ran together. All the words ran together, and all the words ran together. All the words ran together, and all the words ran. It is not possible that you might fall into your own worst moment and remain preserved there forever. Once a doe and her fawn tumbled into the pit mine. Their bodies lay where they fell. It was clear they died on impact. When the photographer saw them, he photographed their corpses, their bones. The photograph is in a museum now. In the maw of the quarry, one sees nothing but walls of shiny black stone, a panopticon of reflective darkness, the self mirrored back to itself. You can't avoid breathing in your own fear, lungfuls of falling. When I read the comments after writing the letter, I felt a sinking inside me, an ice-built ship. When I listened to the tape of the town meeting, listened to the accusations against me, my heart became the lake, constricting and expanding and constricting again. What I fear most is not being invisible, but being seen and misunderstood. When I listened to the tape of the selectmen's meeting after holding the file for months, unable to listen, when I finally listened, my heart began to thump and pulse inside my chest, harder with each beat, the way ice cracks as it expands. My palms went to fists, sweaty clench. I listened, and the ice cracked inside, and what I felt was fear. I felt was fear, me, and what me, and what I felt was me, and what I felt was fear, me, and what I felt was fear. Later, I told my friend who was writing a play on the Salem witch trials, told him I was afraid of my fear, ashamed of my fear, afraid of my shame. Of course, he replied, because in each of us, there's a kernel of doubt that really deep down what they're saying about us, that really it might be true. The night after I listened to the tape for the first time, I dreamed I was at a party with my accusers. They were laughing, drinking, talking smack. I stood among them, watched, even laughed a little at my own expense. They didn't recognize me. I kept wondering when they would recognize me and what they would do when they did. When I awoke, it was suddenly, and with the fear, I was crushing a small creature with my body, something writhing and squeaking between my back and the bed sheet. Still, I was so careful. I spoke in questions. I was raised to believe that questions are a form of love. And so I was so careful, said we when everyone else said us or them. I was so careful, I actually believed if I were careful enough, my words would matter, what I said or did not say. But everyone already knew, was so sure they already knew what I'd meant to say. Everyone already knew, was so sure they already knew what I'd meant to say. The question that lingers is, did I betray language, or did language betray me? Because the words kept splintering, they bounced off themselves, refracting, and I was taught to follow language like the trail that slices the frozen lake. But what if the trails all lead back to the lake's center? The only thing I would not give was my silence. My silence was the only thing wanted from me. The knot at the nape of my neck, where my shoulders hump, corresponds to the thickness at my throat called goiter, which corresponds to the fissure of small cracks in the lining of my bladder, which corresponds to my fear. A woman's kidney energy is complete by the age of 7. As my acupuncturist places the needle, she says, fear in childhood, a sense of instability. She says, picture a chimney with missing bricks. She says, this is your body, which is to say that as I squat to release burning piss on the frozen lake, I am attempting to rid myself of fear. Underneath my feet, I know a cold writhing lies in wait. The slow bodies of togue, brook trout, salmon, twining the slate outcrops. Set the foot down with distrust on the crust of the world. It is thin, warns Edna St. Vincent Millay. That was that. Thank you for bearing with me while I experimented on reading that aloud for the first time ever.